Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 13. Language Skills. Language Skills. Reading, marble, creative writing, story writing, usage words starting with D, report writing, grammar, prose, Three Sisters amazed us. Reading. Reading. Marble. Marble, a metamorphic rock. Marble is a metamorphic rock composed of recrystallized carbonate minerals, mainly calcite and dolomite. It is soft enough to work easily with hand tools and has been used for sculpture and building stone for thousands of years. Soap's Arm Marble, Newfoundland, Canada. The Soap's Arm marbles occur in southern White Bay, western Newfoundland. These dark reddish veined white, grey and pink colored marbles occur within an old fault zone. The texture of the marbles varies from sparsely veined to strongly brecciated and re-cemented. These 450 to 600 million year old marble and limestone rocks were originally deposited as limy muds on the tropical seafloor along the eastern edge of the ancient North American continental margin. During the closure of the Proto-Atlantic Ocean and formation of the Appalachian Mountain Belt some 400 million years ago, the limestone was marbleized. The inclusion of impurities led to a fantastic array or colors of the marbles. Marble Quarry, north of Sudbury on. This is an abandoned marble quarry. The large blocks of marble that have been cut out of the base rock ready for shipping to a processing plant where it would be cut into slabs for such things as bathroom countertops and tiles. Stripped marble is found in Medoc, Ontario, Canada. Creative writing, story writing. How to write a story. First, ideas. People often wonder where writers get their ideas for stories. It takes so many ideas to make a story or a novel. Here's a secret. Writers don't think of all those ideas. They steal them. Not really, but they find ideas from many sources and combine them to make an original story. Look for ideas in real life, such as funny quotes, interesting people, or occurrences at school. Consider your favorite stories. You can use elements of them to make a new story. Brainstorm. Combine several ideas to form the basis of a new story. For example, Harry Potter books combine school, sports, destiny, a kid in a Cinderella type situation, battles between good and evil, and magic to create compelling stories. Sketch the basics of your story. These are the basics of all stories. Sympathetic character, who faces a problem, character solves problem. Don't get into details, but have an idea of your main character and the conflict. Fill in the details. Character and conflict. Character. First, build your main character. Here are important traits of a main character. Has a problem or need. Has the ability to solve the problem, whether or not he knows it. Often has a flaw to overcome to solve the problem, or win the reward. Then think about your secondary characters, the main characters' friends and enemies. To get you started, see here what are the secondary characters. For example, villains block the main character from reaching goals. Allies assist the main character in reaching goals. Mentors, wise characters that help the main character. Jokers, lighten things up. Often the main character's best friend is a joker. Tips on creating characters. If you already have a plot in mind, think of who needs this plot, who has a need the plot's reward would fulfill, who could grow by overcoming the obstacles. That is your main character. Combine different types of characters. For example, a funny villain, a mentor who is also a joker, a villain that becomes an ally and helps the main character solve the real problem. Conflict, a storyteller's best friend. The stronger the story problem, the stronger the story. Don't be nice to your character. Create obstacles to the goal. The story is more exciting that way. The character learns more and the reward is more valuable since the character worked so hard for it. The classic conflicts. These are ideas to get you started. Person versus person. The most popular since conflicts between people are the most interesting to read. Person versus himself. Conflict between good and evil are strengths and weaknesses in a character. This is deep stuff and not usually the main conflict. Person versus nature usually involves natural disasters or survival skills. This conflict is exciting but often difficult to write about a length. How do you create a conflict? Combine different types of conflict. Maybe your characters struggle to survive and fight among themselves. Add more conflicts and obstacles if your story seems slow or not big enough. Before you write, know how the problem will be solved. Don't write yourself into a hole. The main character must solve the problem. Don't have someone or something enter at the last minute and save the day. Planning the plot. Character and conflict are the heart of your story. The plot is just the sequence of events that happen as the character faces problems. Here are few things to remember. A plot is based on cause and effect. The plot follows the effects of the character's actions and decisions. Avoid a series of events. You want a chain of events, each affecting the next. Each link in the chain should be necessary to your story. Elements of most plots. Look in here. Plan these scenes and you should be ready to write. Get the story going. That is the event. Show characters, problems and event that starts adventure. Adventure scenes. Meet friends and enemies. Face obstacles. Learn lessons. Prepare for any adventure. The big event. Everything in the line. Most exciting part of the story. And last, wrap up. Tie up the loose ends and hand out rewards and punishments. Plan your scenes. How you show your plot. Decide how to show action, plot, character interactions, lessons characters learn. How demonstrate. Each scene needs beginning, middle and end. See if you can use the end of one scene to transition to the beginning of another, and so on. Don't write a short scene. for a major event, and don't make a scene out of something that does not need to be. Dialogue. Dialogue does many things for your story. Reveals characters, advances plot, brings scenes to life, adjusts the story space, takes up space. How do you write a dialogue? Avoid long greetings and goodbyes. These will slow down the story and add little. Convey character by showing a character's reaction or way of speaking. Don't use dialogue as a substitute for action. Setting. Plan your setting. Know the details about it. This makes your story more vivid. Setting helps you avoid floating scenes, conversation or action that could be happening anywhere. Setting adds atmosphere to scenes. In some books, the setting is like a character. Start with a bang, your story's opening scene. Start with the day that is different, the day the hero is called to adventure. Start your story as closing to the big event, as you can show the main characters and problem or hint at the problem. Use action to get your story rolling and make your reader want to see what happens next. Write. I don't write until I have planned my character, conflict, scenes, and especially my opening. In your rough draft, just concentrate on getting it all on paper. You can go back and fix things later. Revise. Revise. It's important to correct spellings and grammar mistakes, but first make sure your story is in good shape. Look at your plan again and make sure that you showed those things in your story. Sometimes you need to check what you have shown about the character's problem, strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes you should take care of big scenes and also have written the riddles or the characters. Have a good, wonderful stories. Have fun. Good luck. Here are some story organizers. You can follow these organizers to make an outline of your stories. Here are some story organizers. You can follow these organizers to make an outline of your stories. Here are some story organizers. You can follow these organizers to make an outline of your stories. Here are some story organizers. You can follow these organizers to make an outline of your stories. Usage. Words starting with D. Data is, data are. Data is the plural form of the Latin word datum and takes a plural verb. In informal English, it is acceptable to use a singular verb with data, since most people think of data as a singular noun meaning information or a group of facts. The relevant data supporting the experiment is now available to the public is an informal way. In a formal way, all the data are in these charts. Differ from, differ with. Differ from is used to indicate differences. Differ with indicates disagreements or differences of opinion. Different from, different than. Different from is used in formal English when different from is followed by a short clause. Formal English requires that different from be followed by that which or what. In informal English, different than is acceptable as a shortcut to introduce a clause. Does not, don't. Doesn't should be used with a third person singular subject as the contraction for does not. It is considered non-standard to substitute don't in its place. Due to. In informal English, due is an adjective usually followed by the preposition to. In informal English, due to is acceptable as a preposition meaning because of. Grammar, report writing. Once you master the basics of writing reports, it will be a lot easier to work on more complicated assignments in the future. Creating an outline. A standard outline includes an introduction, three main ideas, and a conclusion. For each of the three main ideas, come up with 2 or 3 supporting details. Remember, you aren't writing the whole report. Just write down the ideas that you want to write about. Write the introductory paragraph. This is the very first paragraph in your report, and it should introduce the topic you will be discussing. Write the body of the report. The body refers to the 3 paragraphs in the middle of the report. These are the main ideas you wrote down in your outline. Use one idea for each paragraph and fill it in with supporting details. Write a conclusion. This is the last thing you should write in your report. A conclusion typically tells what you learned about the subject of your report. In other words, summarize the most important ideas in your report and, if possible, give your own analysis of the subject. Prose. 3 sisters amazed us. Blue Mountains was on mind from the time I viewed them last time through flight. We could not make it last time, but this time, first thing on our agenda was to visit them. The flesh green carpet mountains dazzled me when I saw them from the sky. When we reached Echo Point, I was dumbstruck. This point gave us view of the whole mountains. The 3 big steep rocks on the right side has a very touching story. It says there were 3 sisters named Mahini, Wilma, and Gando, who were in love with 3 brothers from neighboring nations. Their tribe did not allow, so the brothers waged a war against them. The clever man, Kuradajuri, from sister's side, made them into rocks, thinking he will bring them back after the war. Incidentally, he died in the war. The 3 sisters are still standing there to get freed and come back to their natural form. The natives also say that there were 7 mountains and 4 got ruined. We can see the base of the steep rocks. They might be the brothers and the clever man. The mountains are called blue because we can see a layer of sapphire blue tinge both in the morning and evening. It might be the rays through sunlight intervening with atmosphere. We see the blue tinge. What we can see here is scenic world's steep railway, walk in the air, cableway, teddy bear, heaven, limestone caves. I like the green carpet that we could view from the Echo Point. Far away in the center, there stood a ruined castle of native tribe king. We saw people walk through Three Sisters rocks, go on cable cars and steep train. It is really a felt rendezvous with nature God. What an experience that say you need full one day to go around in the train and cables to see few good locations. What is to be admired is the cleanliness of the mountains. It looks the trees are arranged for some function. What an art of God! Most of the trees are eucalyptus. Blue Mountains have animals that are found only in Australia. Koalas and kangaroos are famous animals. Birds of heaven live here. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 14 Language Skills. Language skills reading first ever serials in the world, creative writing, dialogue writing, usage words starting with E, grammar matching with verb and sentence, prose Australian bananas. Reading first ever cereals in the world. Wheat is the first cereal to be cultivated by man. In several places in the Middle East, it is being sowed, tended and reaped soon after 8000 BC. The people of Jericho are the first known to have lived mainly from the cultivation of crops. Barley is grown within the following millennium. Rice is thought to have been cultivated considerably later, perhaps not until about 2500 BC. It is uncertain whether it is first grown as a crop in India or China. Rice, millet and sorghum are thought to be the first crops ever cultivated. Rice has been cultivated for over 5000 years. There are thousands of different varieties of rice. At the International Rice Research Institute Genetic Resources Center in the Philippines, there are 80,000 rice samples in cold storage. Rice is grown on every continent except Antarctica. The millets are a group of small seeded species of cereal crops, widely grown around the world for food and fodder. They do not form a taxonomic group, but rather a functional and agronomic one based on similar characteristics and uses. Sorghum originated in the northeast quadrant of Africa and spread from there throughout Africa and into India. In 1994, sorghum ranked 5th among the most important cereal crops of the world after wheat, rice, maize and barley in both total area planted and production. Creative writing, dialogue writing. Writing dialogue. Realistic dialogue, anyway, does not come easily to everyone. Done well, dialogue advances the story and fleshes out the characters while providing a break from straight exposition. How to write a dialogue? Listen to how people talk. Having a sense of natural speech patterns is essential to good dialogue. Start to pay attention to the expressions that people use and the music of everyday conversation. This exercise asks you to do this more formally, but generally speaking, it's helpful to develop your ear by paying attention to the way people talk. Not exactly like real speech, but dialogue should read like real speech. How do you accomplish that? Alfred Hitchcock said that a good story was life with the dull parts taken out. This very much applies to dialogue. A transcription of a conversation would be completely boring to read. Edit out the filler words and unessential dialogue. This is the dialogue that does not contribute to the plot in some way. Don't provide too much information at once. It should not be obvious to the reader that they are being fed important facts. Let the story unfold naturally. You don't have to tell the reader everything up front, and you can trust him or her to remember details from earlier in the story. Break up dialogue with action. Remind your reader that your characters are physical human beings by grounding their dialogue in the physical world. Physical details also help break up the words on the page. Long periods of dialogue are easier for the reader's eye when broken up by description. Don't overdo dialogue tags. Reading too much beyond he said, she said only draws attention to the tags, and you want the reader's attention centered on your brilliant dialogue, not your ability to think of synonyms for said. Stereotypes, profanity and slang. Beware of falling back on stereotypes and use profanity and slang sparingly. All of these risk distracting or alienating your reader. Anything that takes the reader out of the fictional world you are working so hard to create is not your friend. Read some examples of how to achieve the tone you want without stereotypes, profanity and slang. Read widely. Pay attention to why things work or don't work. Where are you taken out of the story's action? Where did you stop believing in a character? Or alternatively, when did the character really jump off the page? And how did dialogue help accomplish that? You can start reading like a writer with the link above, or pick up an anthology and start your own list of writers or lean from. Punctuate dialogue correctly. The rules for punctuating dialogue can be confusing. Many writers need help getting them right in the beginning. Take some time to learn the basics. A reader should get lost in your prose, not feel lost trying to follow your dialogue. You have already done a learning package on punctuation in the previous weeks. Gram. Words starting with E. Usage. Either, neither. Used alone, either and neither take a singular verb. When using either or neither nor, the verb should agree with the noun that is nearer to it. Neither wants the job. Either Carla or Sam has written the best paper. Neither Dana nor her parents are going to the play. Emigrate, immigrate. Emigrate means to leave a country in order to live somewhere else. Immigrate means to come into a country to live. Because of employment difficulties, some of the people emigrate from villages that had been their homes for generations. Those who immigrated to the United States were warmly received. Ensure, ensure. Ensure is a verb meaning to make sure or certain. Insure is a verb meaning to provide money in case of accident, loss or death. Insure can also mean to make sure or certain. but it is preferable to use ensure when this meaning is intended. Careful planning ensured the success of the project. Teresa ensured her paintings and sculptures. Enthuse. Enthuse is a verb formed from the noun enthusiasm. It is not acceptable in standard English and should be replaced by the enthusiastic about or be enthusiastic over. Non-standard, I enthused over the change in management. Standard, I am enthusiastic about the change in management. Standard, Aran was enthusiastic over his committee's success in setting up a recycling center. Matching the verb and its subject. The subject and verb in a sentence work together as a team. Without both members of the team, we cannot make a sentence. Teamwork in sentences, as in anything else, requires rules. If the members of a team are to work together, they must agree with each other. We are going to see that a verb must always agree with its subject. But first let's make a quick check to be sure we can pick out the subject and the verb in a sentence. Making sure of the subject. In locating the parts of a sentence, we look for the verb first. Once we have the verb, we look for its subject. We put the question who or what before the verb. The answer is that, the subject. If the verb is an action verb, we look for a subject that names the performance of the action. Jack rode his horse in the parade. The big truck turned the corner. Making sure of the subject. Here the subject Jack answers the question who rode. The subject truck answers the question who turned. If the verb is a linking verb, we know that instead of showing action, it serves to link the subject to a complement. But again we can ask who or what to find the subject. Jim is the ideal candidate for class president. The weather seems perfect for fishing. In each of these sentences, our subjects Jim and weather tell us whom or what the statements are about. Making sure of the subject. No matter what kind of verb a sentence has, you can find the subject in the same way. Locate the verb first, then ask the question who or what before it. The answer is the subject. Supplying subjects for verbs. Think of a suitable subject for the verb in each of the following word groups. If you wish, you may include modifiers with the subject. After the number of each word group, write the complete sentence. Underline the subject and the complete verb. Example, these dash are too tight for me. These new shoes are too tight for me. Singular and plural. When a noun refers to only one person or thing, it is singular in number. Brother, sister, and shoe are all singular nouns. When a noun refers to more than one person or thing like brothers, sisters, or shoes, it is said to be plural in number. Notice that each of the plural nouns above was formed by adding the letters to the singular form. Most plural nouns end in S. Most singular nouns do not end in S. Some words have special plural forms that do not end in S, like mice and children, for example. There are a few singular nouns like dress and kindness which end in S. Some nouns are just the same in the singular and plural, deer and sheep, for example. Verbs too are either singular or plural. In any sentence, whether the verb is singular or plural depends entirely on its subject. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. This rule is called the rule of agreement of subject and verb. My brother wants a canoe. In this sentence, the verb wants is singular to agree with the singular subject brother. Now look at another sentence. My brothers want a canoe. Here the verb want is plural because it must agree with the plural subject brothers. A verb must agree with its subject. A singular verb goes with a singular subject. A plural verb goes with the plural subject. Here are some more examples. The tree changes color early. The trees change color early. The house looks empty. The house look empty. One light flashes. Two lights flash. Did you notice that in all of the examples both the singular verbs end in S and the plural verbs do not end in S? This is usually true of all verbs in the present tense except when the subject I and you. It is not correct to say I sees or you sees. We say I see but he sees. You laugh but Charlie laughs. It will help you to watch the letter S carefully. If you add an S to subject, you must not add an S to the verb. The addition of an S makes nouns plural, but it makes verbs singular. Prose. Australian bananas. Australian bananas. Australian bananas are a product of the rain and sunshine of the tropics and subtropics. Bananas grow in row after row on commercial plantations in 3 states. They are actually the world's largest herb, a plant that goes on producing year after year. More than 90% of Australia's bananas are grown in Queensland, the majority in the high rainfall region in the far north, where bananas grow in a narrow coastal strip between Cardwell in the south and Babinda in north. The industry is now centered around Inifoil and Tully in North Queensland. Others are grown on the Atherton tableland, North New South Wales, from around Coffs Harbour to the Tweed River, and in southeast Queensland as far north as Bundaberg. Small commercial plantations exist in Western Australia around Carnarvon, as well as near the Ord River at Kunkura and near Darwin. A well-planned plantation incorporates good soil types, safe all-weather access, row design to suit typographic conditions, irrigation design, plant spacings, and specialized erosion control and drainage structures. From the time of planting, it usually takes 12 months or so to produce the first bunch, with subsequent bunches every 8 to 10 months thereafter. Because commercial banana plants cannot produce seeds, they are predominantly propagated from their underground rhizomes called corms or tissue culture. The corm is a mass of underground fibrous material which develops underground eyes which sprout as new shoots called suckers, whilst the parent or mother plant continues to grow. Generally, it is the corm of the plant which is dug up and cut up for planting material called bits and suckers. Almost half of banana plants are propagated by tissue culture, because they are free of major pests and diseases. Tissue culture is a process whereby plants are produced in sterile conditions and grown in pots. The tissue is taken from the meristem located near the center of an eye. The young plantlets are about 300 meters high. As the young banana plant grows, it continually produces suckers. Only one of these is selected to continue the banana crop cycle, whilst the others are removed. The banana plant is the largest perennial plant on earth without a wooden stem. Its trunk, called pseudostem, comprises a series of tightly overlapping leaf sheaths and is comprised of about 90% water. As such, a banana plant can easily be blown over by moderately strong winds. After approximately 6 months, when the banana plant's leaf formation is completed and the plant has matured, a flowering stalk emerges from the top of the plant. This flowering stalk appears as a large bud and is called the bell. Initially, the flowering stalk grows upwards and is eventually turned downward by the forces of gravity. This bell forms in the culm and pushes its way up through the pseudostem to emerge through what is known as the throat of the plant. It follows the last leaf that the parent plant will produce. At this stage, the inflorescence is greenish red, bullet-shaped and pointedly vertical. It quickly turns over to a pendulumous position. The inflorescence consists of male and female flowers attached to a central stem and arranged in grouped double rows called hands. A reddish-purple fleshy bract protects each hand. As the bunch develops, the bracts begin to lift and fall off, revealing the developing bananas. The female flowers are the first hands to be revealed and recognizably bigger than the male flowers. Only the female flowers will develop into bananas, and the hands of the male flowers fall off soon after their bracts do. As the little bananas start to develop, they grow downwards as gravity would dictate, but as they take in more and more sunlight, their natural growth hormones bring about a phenomenon known as negative geotropism, and they begin to turn and grow upward, which is why bananas are always bent. After the bunch forms, it is covered with a large translucent bag shielding in from insect, bird, flying fox and leaf damage. It is hard to believe a leaf rubbing in the wind on a newly emerged bunch can mark the developing bananas. The bag still allows sunlight to reach the bananas. In addition, when a bunch has a translucent bag on it, it helps the fruit to fill out more quickly. A bunch with a bag on it will be picked 2 to 3 weeks quicker than one without. At the time of covering, the bunch is trimmed via the removal of some of the smaller hands, and the bell is also removed. Within 12 to 15 weeks of flowering, bunches have matured enough to be ready for harvest. A bunch averages 150 to 200 bananas and weighs approximately 35 to 50 kilograms. Once the bunch is harvested, the parent or the mother plant is cut down and becomes organic plantation matter. The selected sucker will now become the new parent or mother plant, which will produce the next bunch of bananas in approximately 8 to 12 months' time. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Light School Level 4. Academic Week 16 Language Skills. Language Skills: Reading, Invention of Trade, Creative Writing, Doublets, Grammar, simple sentence. Prose, we. Reading, invention of a train. The first steam locomotive prototype was built in 1784 by William Murdoch, who was born in Scotland and worked as an engineer and inventor in Birmingham, England. The prototype was the basis for a later design that could carry 4.5 tons of cargo in addition to the driver. The first locomotive to be able to pull cargo cars on a track was developed in 1804 by Richard Trevithick, a British inventor and mining engineer. It could pull 5 cargo and passenger cars at a speed of 4 kilometers per hour. In 1820, George Stephenson, English civil and mechanical engineer, overcame the problem of the weight of the engine crushing wooden and iron rails by distributing the weight with a series of wheels and built the first successful railroad. It was a line of 8 miles from Hutton to Sunderland and the first railway that did not use animal power. George Stephenson is credited with placing the first steam engine on a vehicle on a set of tracks and is credited with the railroad standard gauge, most common throughout the world. But trains were in use without locomotives for decades prior to this, and at least one inventor beat Stephenson to the self-power steam carriage. That was Nicholas Joseph Cugnot, who invented and built the first self-propelled steam vehicle in late 1700s in France. Some miners in Germany in the 1500s, but it probably goes back at least to the Romans and Greeks. Creative writing. Doublets. Doublets can be made from one word to another word. Doublets. Doublets is the best known game invented by Lewis Carroll. Its origin was explained in an article in Vanity Fair on 29th March 1879. In doublets, 2 words are proposed of the same length, and the puzzle consists in linking these together by intersposing other words, each of which shall differ from the next word in one letter only. For example, move head to tail in 5 moves. Head, heel, tail, tell, tall, tail. Here is another one. Raise 4 to 5. 4, foul, fool, foot, 4, fire, and 5. Here is yet another one. Make wheat into bread. Wheat, cheat, cheam, bream, and bread. Fantastic. Here is another one. Make black into white. Black, slack, stack, stock, stale, shale, whale, while, and white. It's easy. We can make hand into foot. Hand, hard, lord, lord, ford, foot, and foot. Just very easy, like drink more to less. More, lore, laws, loss, and less. Make the cake from small to large. Small, stall, still, spill, spile, spine, seen, siege, sense, tense, terse, verse, verge, merge, merge, and large. Make iron into lead. Iron, icon, coin, corn, cord, lord, load, lead. Can you make live into dead? Yes. Live, line, lined, lend, led, and dead. Make an ape to man. Ape, aped, ought, oat, mat, and man. Go from 7 word to 8 word. 7, sever, savor, saved, paved, paled, piled, riled, rilled, rillet, rigget, bigot, begot, begot, bite, and ate. Stop sin and make O. Sin, son, one, and O. Make lass to male. Lass, mass, mast, malt, and male. Change hate to love. Hate, have, hoe, and love. Make room for cook. Room, rook, and cook. Make tree to ride. Tree, true, rude, and ride. Drive pig to sty. Pig, wig, wag, way, say, sty. Run from cat to dog. Cat, cot, dot, and dog. Port to sink. Port, soar, sear, sinner, sink. Make back to tin. Bag, lag, sag, sang, tan, and tin. Let miss poke. Miss, piss, picks, pick, and poke. The simple sentence. A simple sentence may consist of only 2 words, a noun or pronoun and a verb. For example, John runs, time flies, he goes, he lives, I go. A simple sentence is the basis for all sentence construction. So, there is an essential subject, that is a noun or noun element, which is essential as the subject of the verb is called the essential subject. Love conquers all. A word to the wise is sufficient. A remarkably pretty little girl was knocking at our door. So, the essential subject may be a noun, like rain is falling, a pronoun, here he is here, an adjective used as a noun, the good or the happy, or it is used as a noun like to work is the way to win, an infinitive, a gerund, working strengths, the worker, a phrase used as a noun, to be first in class was his ambition. Any part of the speech treated simply as a name and thus used as a noun, if often brings failure. A complete subject. The complete subject consists of the essential subject together with all of its modifiers. The best of their houses is covered with bark. In this sentence, best is the essential subject. The complete subject is the best of their houses. So, the essential predicate, the infinite verb, which makes the principal assertion about the subject and is therefore essential to the construction of the sentence, is called the essential. A stitch in time saves nine. Polly put the kettle on. Good wits jump. So a complete predicate, the essential predicate and the entire group of words associated with it is called the complete predicate. Polly put the copper kettle on the stove. Prose. The invention of the wheel. First it was a roller, then it was a wedge, then it was a sledge on roller, then sledge on roller, which has become grouped with use, wheels and axle in one piece, an axle fixed by pegs, then wheels joined to axle, axle fixed into crude bearings. The invention of the wheel. The wheel is probably the most important mechanical invention of all time. It is interesting to note that wheels may have had industrial or manufacturing applications before they were used on vehicles. The earliest known use of this essential invention was a potter's wheel that was used in Mesopotamia as early as 3500 BC. The first use of the wheel for transportation was probably on Mesopotamian chariots in 3200 BC. Then came adding spokes. The first wheels were made from 3 solid pieces of wood fitted together in the shape of a circle. They were almost too heavy to be useful. Then people discovered a way to make them lighter. They cut out most of the wood from inside the circle and replaced it with wooden bars called spokes. Vehicles with spoked wheels were faster and easier to manage. Then came chariots. The wheel didn't change people's lives too much until about 3000 BC. That's when the Mesopotamians invented the chariot, a two-wheeled cart pulled by a horse. At first, chariots were used in royal funeral procession, but it soon occurred to army commanders that chariots would be a great way to surprise the enemy. The use of chariots spread quickly to China and Europe. In Greece and Rome, chariots racing became very popular. Centuries later, it became the main event in the Greek Olympic Games and the Roman Circus Games. Laying down tracks. In 312 BC, the Romans began building stone roads. The first was the Via Appia. It runs 162 miles from Rome to the eastern city of Taranto. Over the centuries, the Roman Empire brought more and more territories under its control. The road system extended out from Rome to modern-day East Great Britain, Romania, Greece, Iraq, and North Africa. It was indeed true that all roads led to Rome. Fragments of the great Roman road survive to this day.
Coaches. For centuries, the wheeled cart was fairly simple and functional. Then in the 1500s, the first four-wheeled coaches were built in Hungary in Eastern Europe. Unlike a hand, often nickety, work cart, the Hungarian coach was comfortable and elegant. Its wood was polished and gleaming, not rough and full of silvers. Riders sat on cushioned seats, while strong, sturdy horses pulled the coach along. "Wow," said the wealthy British upper class. "That's for us." They began ordering the Hungarian coaches in huge numbers. Then British craftsmen learned to build their own fine coaches. Stagecoaches. The less wealthy also liked the idea of riding in a fancy coach, but they couldn't afford to buy one, and few people had the means to feed and take care of more than one horse. But this gave some clever business owners the idea of the coach for hire service. They opened delivery stables where customers could rent horses and carriages. These coaches for hire were the traveling along fixed routes in England, making regular stops at stations along the way. These stations were called stages, and so the coaches became stagecoaches. In a stagecoach, passengers could relax and watch the scenery while they covered more territory than ever before in a shorter amount of time. Covered wagons. The stage wagon, often called the covered wagon, is a heavy, broad-wheeled covered freight carrier used extensively during the late 1700s and 1800s in the United States. It was large enough to transport loads up to 8 short tons and was drawn by 4 to 6 horses. The first Conestoga wagon originated in Pennsylvania around 1750. The name came from the Conestoga Valley near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 17 Language Skills. Language skills. Reading. What is a mirage effect? Creative writing. Enigmas. Grammar. The subject. Prose. Space exploration. Listening. What is a mirage effect? A mirage effect is not only seen by thirsty desert wanderers. You can also see one driving comfortably along a blacktop highway on a sunny day. That wet-looking spot on the road up ahead
could actually be a mirage that stays in the distance, as impossible to reach as a rainbow. Normally, water in the distance is seen by its ability to reflect light off its surface. In the case of a mirage, it is refraction, not reflection, creating a similar effect. The hot surface warms the air immediately above it to a higher temperature than the air higher up. A light ray grazing the surface under those circumstances is bent or refracted upward. That's because light travels faster in warmer, less dense air than in denser cold air. The faster motion of the lower part of a light ray spreads and speeds ahead of the upper part, causing it to bend or refract upward. When the refracted light ray meets your eye, it appears to be coming from the road surface instead of the distant sky. A reflected light and light ray follow a similar path, so the refracted ray is interrupted as a reflected one and a mirage is seen. Creative writing, enigmas. The enigma is a kind of riddle in verse. The first enigma is written by Sir Thomas Wyatt, an English poet. Here is an enigma. The wooden birds are now in sight, whose voices roar, whose wings are white, whose mouths are filled with hose and shoes, with wine, cloth, sugar, salt, and news. When they have eased their stomachs here, they cry, farewell until next year. This is about ships that brought supplies to the settlers. Here is another enigma about the riverbed. An enigma. I am thick, I am thin, I am short and long, and loud alike by old and young. I make diseases and I heal, and know what I shall never reveal. Here is another enigma by Jonathan Swift, who composed it. Ever eating, never cloying, all devouring, all destroying, never finding full repast, till I eat the world's at last time. This is nothing but the sun. Here is another enigma about vowels. We are little airy creatures, all of different voice and features. One of us in glass is set, one of us you will find in jet. I, other, you may see in tin, and the fourth a box within. If the fifth you should pursue, it can never fly from you. Grammar. Subject. Parts of speech in the complete subject. The subject. Any part of speech except a finite verb may be joined to the essential subject as an adjunct or modifier to make up the complete subject. The noun. A noun may be used in the complete subject in either one of the three cases. The nominative case. The essential subject. In the subject of a simple sentence, the noun is used chiefly as the essential subject. Time and tide wait for no man. And a positive of essential subject. Since the essential subject is always in the nominative case, any noun in opposition with the essential subject
is also in the nominative case. Washington, the general, was present. Personal names, titles, and designations of office or honor treated as appositive or part of the appositive. Mr. Brown, Dr. Sweet, the Reverend Mr. Hyssop, George Washington, General Washington, Lord Bacon, John Paul Jones. The pronoun. The use of the pronoun in the subject of a simple sentence is for the most part the same as that of the noun. The nominative case, the essential subject, a pronoun may be the essential subject. He is attentive. They are absent. History of space exploration for kids for pros. You have probably seen the space shuttle on television, but have you ever wondered when people first started to travel outside of Earth's atmosphere? Both Russia and USA began space exploration program in 1955, and Russia was the first country to put a rocket into orbit when it launched the Sputnik 1 in October 1957. The first Earthling in space was not a human or a chimpanzee, but a dog from Russia whose name was Laika. On November 3, 1957, Laika was placed in the Sputnik 2 rocket and launched into orbit. The launch was successful, but this was during the early years of space exploration, and there was no way to bring Laika home. The race to the moon began in 1961, and the United States landed the first manned spacecraft on the moon. This historic date was July 20th, 1969, and Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were the first humans to walk on the moon. During the past 50 years, Russia and the US have both sent many rockets and probes into space. There have been robotically controlled machines that have landed on both the moon and Mars that have sent back valuable information. During the 1980s, 5 unmanned spacecraft were sent to study comets, and these included the Suzy and Sekigake from Japan, the Vega 2 from Russia, and the Gigoto from the European Space Agency. The Magellan, the Galileo, and the Voyager are also orbiting spacecraft that have helped scientists learn about Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus. Space stations. There have been 2 space stations, and the first of these was the Mir, which was launched by Russia and remained in orbit from 1986 until 2001. The 1998, the International Space Station's first module was sent into space, and since this time the USA, Canada, Japan, Russia, and 10 European countries have collaborated and worked together to make this a large, usable habitat for scientists and astronauts. Italy has contributed the Harmony Space Station module, and Europe has established the Columbus Laboratory, which is one of the finest research centers ever built. The ISS will be used by these countries as a shared base of operations for exploring the universe. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 18 Language Skills. Reading. What is an ecosystem?
An ecosystem is made up of many different components. The components of an ecosystem that are biotic or related to life are the living factors in an ecosystem. Plants, animals, fungi, protists, and bacteria are all biotic or living factors. The behaviors of living organisms are also considered biotic factors. For example, when an animal hunts and eats another organism, predation, this is a biotic factor because it involves living things. The role or niche an organism plays in an ecosystem is also known as biotic factor. An ecosystem is a basic unit in ecology formed by the interaction of plants, animals, and microorganisms, even that is biotic factors, with their physical environment. The physical environment is a biotic factor. Many populations living and surviving together form a community. Often in an ecosystem, there are challenges facing each individual species or population of organisms. These challenges are called limiting factors. Limiting factors can be in the form of biotic or abiotic factors. A limiting factor is anything that tends to make it more difficult for a species to live, grow, or reproduce in its environment. A food chain shows how each living thing gets its food. Some animals eat plants and some animals eat other animals. Plants are called producers because they are able to use light energy from the sun to produce food, that is sugar, from carbon dioxide and water. Animals cannot make their own food, so they must eat plants and or other animals. They are called consumers. There are three groups of consumers. Animals that eat only plants are called herbivorous, are primary consumers. Animals that eat other animals are called carnivorous. Animals that eat both plants and animals are called omnivorous. Interconnected food chains form a food web. Creative writing. Letter games. There are two letter games called curtailment and beheadment. The first letter is removed from a word is called beheadment. The last letter is removed in a word is called curtailment. For example, shitted. If you remove the letter, last letter shita, first letter heather, again another letter from last heat, then one more letter eat, and take out again one more letter et, and still you can go for a. So this is both beheadment and curtailment. For example, the word startling, you can have starling, starting, start, taught, and art. Here is another word which you can have, starring.
then star, then tar. You can remove one or two letters in between or at the back or in the front. George Herbert's poem Paradise had many beheaded words. Now here is a poem. You can just see how the words, one letter has been removed. I bless thee, Lord, because I grow among thy trees which in a row to thee both fruit and order owe. Here is another one. What open force or hidden charm can blast my fruit or bring me harm, while the enclosure is thine arm? Here is another one. Enclose me, still for fear I start. Be to me rather sharp and tart, than let me want thy hand and art. When thou dost greater judgment spare, and with thy knife but prune and pare, even fruitful trees more fruitful are. Here is another one. Such sharpness shows the sweetest friend, such cuttings rather heal than rend, and such beginnings touch their end. There is another letter game called logogram. Logogram is a puzzle which includes beheadments and curtailments. Now here is another letter game with a word clue. For example, the word leaf is given and clue is given as insect. You can make a new word called flea. Word reed, clue is animal. You can have deer. Word here and rabbit, hare. Word law, a bird, owl. Word late, a story, tale. Grammar, subject. Now adjective in subject. The English adjective has neither gender, person, number, nor case to know the common form of the adjective and then apply that to any noun or pronoun. Wherever a noun is used in the complete subject of a sentence, an adjective may be used as a modifier of that noun. The adjective in the subject of a sentence may be used as the essential subject. This occurs when the adjective preceded by the definite article is used as noun. The best is the cheapest. The good are blessed. Verb as an essential subject. A finite verb cannot be part of the subject of a simple sentence. If we say, for instance, the man who is at the gate may enter, we have not a simple but a complex sentence. There are, however, two verbal forms, the finite and the participle, either of which may be used in the subject of a simple sentence. the finite in the subject. The infinite or an infinitive phrase may be the essential subject. To lie is base. To learn all the facts of the case is a necessity. The infinite denoting purpose and is often the object of the preposition for having a subject in the object case. For them, preposition for having a subject in the objective case, for them to go. An infinitive phrase with for maybe the essential subject. For him to escape is impossible. Here the infinitive phrase for him to escape is a noun element. The subject of the verb is an adjunct of the essential subject. The plan for him to escape was craftily formed. Here the infinitive phrase for him to escape is an adjective element modifying the noun plan. The modifier of the essential subject, the time to learn is while we are young. In such use of infinitive or infinitive phrase is classed as an adjective element, a modifier of an adjunct of the essential subject. The children, eager to go, crowded to the door. Pros. Communications. Communication is very important. It keeps business running and relationships from falling apart. By keeping the lines of communication open, everyone knows where they stand. The purpose of communication is to send message effectively to the receiver or reader. Communication is the transduction of emotions and of thoughts from one to another. Three forms of communication: verbal, either spoken or written; non-verbal; and graphic. Traditional forms of communication are letters, pages, voicemail, fax, and so on. There are several forms of communication: oral communication or word of mouth, writing newspapers or magazines, sign language, electrical communication. Examples for telephone or internet, codes, mass communication, group communication, physical communication. The communication process is the method of transmitting information from the sender to receiver and being able to get a feedback. Between the first stage of the information being sent from the source, there is the message, channels, sometimes noise, and we will know the communication was effective when the receiver responds to the message. There are 7 elements in the speech communication process. There would be situation, feedback, interference, listener, channel, message, and speaker. Satellite communication is when the Earth orbiting system capable of receiving signals and relaying it back to the ground. Communications satellites have been a significant part of a domestic and global communication since the 70s. TTC satellites communicate through a complex system of telemetry that connects and transmits signals between satellites and earthbound stations. Command and tracking systems. The signals that are communicated between ground systems
and satellites are made possible through command and tracking systems which transmit and track satellites. Command systems receive, decode and send commands and instructions from ground systems to satellites. Transponders and antenna subsystems complete the transmission and communication of signals that are produced between ground systems and satellites through communication links. What are the functions of a communication satellite? Since 1972, the world has employed communication satellites to revolutionize the way humans connect with each other. The uses of these satellites have evolved over time, but they still serve essential functions primarily for business and entertainment purpose. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Life School Level 4. Academic Week 15 Language Skills. Language Skills. Reading: Benjamin Franklin, the father of electricity. Creative writing: anagram. Grammar: the sentence. Prose: toy making. Benjamin Franklin, the father of electricity, felt as he fainted to the ground. "Are you all right?" he heard above him. Slowly he opened his eyes to see, but only to sight a mostly colorless blur. When he could see properly, he stood up with the help of the others who had made the commotion above him. Benjamin Franklin had proven electricity his goal for many years. Benjamin Franklin was born on January 17, 1706. He was the 15th child out of a total of 17 brothers and sisters. Josiah Franklin, Benjamin's father, was born on December 23, 1657. Abaya, Ben's mother, was born on August 15, 1667. At age 17, he ran away to Philadelphia to work on his own. He found a job as a printer and printed the Philadelphia Gazette, a newspaper. He invented the almanac in the print shop, selling about 10,000 copies a year. When he was an apprentice, he had learned how to type and print. That was how he could invent the almanac and print a newspaper. Benjamin was very smart because he read many books. He was not afraid to experiment. When a thought popped in his head like lightning is a source of electricity, he had the determination to prove. Ben and 3 of his friends were trying to analyze electricity and experiment with it. 2 of his friends got electrocuted while they were working on this. While they did this experiment, they obviously proved that lightning was electricity. Yet the world had not seen it, so Franklin decided to do the kite experiment, but alone. Ben would always think about what he wanted to do in the experiment, find the materials, and think of how he could fix something if it did not work. Finally, he would gather the materials and do the experiment. Sometimes this process took a while. Ben was very keen to show the world that lightning was electricity. He wanted to prove this. He decided to use a metal
key to do this experiment. Yet, he still needed a way to keep the key in the air. In 1752, on a stormy day, he raised his kite with a key tied near his hand. He could feel the electric shock go through his body. Ben had finally proven and understood lightning, that is, electricity. Later that year, he invented the lightning rod. In 1740, electricity was a novel and fashionable subject. Most people thought that electricity was as mysterious as heaven. When Franklin gave the idea of lightning being a source of electricity, people were excited and he was supported all around the world. If Ben hadn't discovered lightning was electricity, we would not have anything that could run on it. Although many people have researched electricity and found how it worked, fewer research and experiments would have happened. Electricity has gone far from Benjamin Franklin's basic idea. We now have computers, lamps, speakers, TV, and many more things that run on electricity. Creative writing. Anagram. Anagram is a rearrangement of letters. Jewish mystics introduced the game in 13th century. Louis VIII, King of France, appointed royal anagrammist in 17th century. Here are few of the common anagrams. Angered, enraged. Animosity is no enmity. The aristocracy are rich Tory caste. Astronomers, moon starers. Boardroom, broad mood. Conversation, voices rant on. Desperation, a rope ends it. Disappointment, made in pink pots. Endearments, tender names. Evangelists, evil's agents. The eyes, they see. Hamlet, Thelma. Ireland, Erin Ladd. Marriage, a grim era. Nameless, salesman. Oregon, groan. Paradise Lost, reap sad toils. Prenatal, parental. Prosecutor, court poser. Punishment, 9 thumbs. Vanities, vain tease. Waitress, a stew serve. Anagram puzzle. Pair of words that are anagrams of one another. Hidden promise, latent talent. Bring back the visitor, recall caller. Barefooted dogs, unshod hounds. Brave foreigner on the back tick, valiant Latvian. Drink fit for a king, regal larger. Glorified hopelessness, praised despair. Racecourse cadet, Aintree trainee. What happens if Pinchot says this? Sentence is a lie. Grammar. The sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words containing a subject and a predicate and expressing a complete thought. The sentence. A sentence is a combination of words so connected as to express a complete thought. Man is mortal. Is man mortal? How mortal man is. Subject and predicate. The sentence is composed of two parts, the subject and the predicate. The subject is the part of the sentence about which an assertion is made by the use of a finite verb. The Romans conquered Britain. The predicate is the part of the sentence that makes an assertion about the subject by using a finite verb. The Romans conquered Britain. Classes of sentences. Sentences are divided along two different lines according to their manner of expressing thought and their structure. Classes of sentences according to thought. As to their manner of expressing thought, sentences are divided into four classes. Declarative. A declarative sentence affirms that something is or is not a fact or a possibility. The sun shines, the earth moves, the sun has not set. Interrogative. An interrogative sentence asks whether something is or is not a fact. Is this your home? Is not that reasonable? Imperative. An imperative sentence commands or forbids something. Listen to me. Do not neglect your lessons. Exclamatory. An exclamatory sentence expresses a thought as an exclamation, either with or without an interjection. Oh, give me my lowly thatched cottage again. How brightly the sun shines. Classes of sentences according to structure. According to structure, sentences are divided into four classes. The simple sentence. A simple sentence contains only one subject and one predicate. Life is short. Flowers bloom in the spring. A good man is at peace with himself and the world. The complex sentence. One or more dependent clauses may be joined to a simple sentence to form a complex sentence. When I signal, you must run. The compound sentence, two or more simple sentences, may be combined to form a compound sentence. The temperature is high, but the humidity is low. The compound complex sentence. One or more dependent clauses may be combined with two or more simple sentences to form a compound complex sentence. The man who made the offer is here. but he is too late. So, there are types of sentences and sentences of classes of sentences. Learn them better. Prose. Toy making, a popular craft in India, by Archana. The images of deities and animate and inanimate beings have been transposed to the children's world as toys in Andhra Pradesh. Kondapalli, Nirmal and Edkopaka toys are the most significant wooden toys made in the state. Kondapalli toys are made in the Kondapalli village, that is 17 kilometers away from Vijayawada in the Krishna district of Andhra Pradesh. The artisans who make these toys are known as Arya Kshatriya. It is said that these craftsmen migrated from Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh to Kondapalli around the 16th century. The toys are known as Koyyabommalu, meaning wooden toys. The wood used for this purpose is the poniki wood, which is soft and light in weight and are also available in the nearby forest. The wood is cut into the required size and dried for 15 to 20 days to make the wood light. The pieces are kept on a wire frame over a terracotta bowl with burning sawdust to make it warm and easy to carve. The body of the toy is carved and again exposed to heat for moisture to evaporate. The detailing is sculptured after all the parts are joined to the main body and dried. Earlier, a vegetable gum made out of a paste of tamarind seeds was used to join the components, which has now been replaced by Fevicol. The toy is given a smooth finish by filing. Brown paper or newspaper or other fabric is stuck on the cracked areas using Maida solution. After it dries, it is smoothed with sandpaper. Suddha Mitti, white paste, solution that has calcium carbonate and acacia gum is applied as a first coat. Once dried, the toys are painted, usually by women using vegetable colors or enamel colors and brushes made of goat's hair. A coat of linseed oil is given to toys painted with vegetable colors to make them waterproof. Every member of the family participates in the process of making Kondapalli toys. The toys can roughly be categorized as those representing scenes from actual life, those representing deities, and others that capture animal figures. The first type of the toys consists of scenes which contain more than one figure. For example, it is common to find a simple single hut with a woman cooking, man climbing a palm tree, a woman milking a cow, or pounding grain, or spinning a wheel, or men guarding sheep. The second type of toys are connected to animal figures with domestic and wild. The third type is usually related to mythological stories. The popular ones are the 10 dolls that represent the 10 incarnations of Lord Vishnu. Representations of Shiva and other gods of the Hindu pantheon are also common. Nirmal toys. Nirmal, a village in the Adilabad district of Andhra Pradesh, is famous for its toys and paintings. Nirmal toys are also carved in lightweight Poniki wood. The wooden blocks are soaked overnight and dried to lighten the color of wood. Various components of toys are joined together. Lacquer chips and bamboo are used for parts such as beaks of birds or stems of fruit. Sandpaper is used to smooth the surface. Sawdust and paste of tamarind seeds are applied on the toy. After the product dries, few cracks appear that are filled with lapum, and then a coat of Suddha Mitti is applied on the toy. Suddha Mitti is fine clay gathered from the river bank used as a base coat before painting. The toys are finally dried and painted with vegetable or acrylic colors. The artisans make exact copies of fruits, vegetables, birds and animals. The texture of the fruits and animals is depicted through finely painted lines. Initially, vegetable dyes were used, but now water-based colors are preferred. The craftsmen make their own colors from minerals, gum and herbs. The dominant color in Nirmal toys is gold, which is produced by boiling juices of two kinds of plants in linseed oil. Birds are generally shown flying, and a flock of 3 to 5 makes a wall plaque. The less ornamented toys are made without application of color. Glue made of tamarind seeds boiled to the consistency of a paste is mixed with white clay and applied to the surface of the toys. Those decorated lavishly are dominated by the gold color. Generally, the base color is black or natural mud. Color, variety of designs and moods mark the toys of Andhra Pradesh. Etikoppaka in the Visakhapatnam district is well known for traditional lacquered toys. The products include toys, utility items like bowls, jars and containers, and ornaments like bangles and earrings. Toys are also made of kinds of wood like teak besides poniki and are given a natural finish. Solid color lacquering is preferred here. The use of chemical dyes is prevalent. Lacquering is done by hand or machine operated lathe. In the lac tourney method, the wooden blocks are temporarily fixed on the machine and the lac stick is pressed against the toy. The toy keeps moving and the heat generated makes the lac soft and adhere to the product. After drying, the product is given a smooth finish. The craftsman later rubs the product with mogul leaves which impart a brilliant shine. From small toys and tops for children to candle holders, Etikoppaka artisans make them in a wide range of rich and wonderful colors. Etikoppaka toys depict gods and goddesses as well as typical Carnatic musical instruments like the veena. They depict scenes like peasant women working in the field. Several other household articles like furniture are sold in toy sizes as well. Kondapalli, Nirmal and Etikoppaka are the three main toy making centers in Andhra Pradesh. These toys are made for commercial purposes. Other toys include the sawdust dolls and the Tirupati dolls. Sawdust toys are mainly made in Verigonda village in Nellore district and Vemuluvada and Nupuram villages in East Godavari district. Local artists here make attractive sawdust toys featuring traditional themes and historical figures from Hindu epics. They use adhesives made from plants like tumma. a thorny plant. Tirupati toys form an entirely different style of toys. They consist largely of reproductions of the religious figures in the classical style as seen in sculptures in temples. The deity figurines are made using a red colored wood that gives the toy a distinctive look. Red sandalwood is used in the Chittoor district of Andhra Pradesh to carve these dolls. This wood is resistant to white ants and fire. The dancing figures are highly ornamented and beautifully chiseled, making these dolls unique. All these dolls are liked by children, and most of them you see in the doll ceremonies around the Andhra Pradesh